So you work a lot with our newer agents that come into the company.
Yes.
And so before we kind of jump into this topic, this is a big topic, right?
Yes.
This topic of committing to your life. You know, I'm
Yes.
sure people on the call are thinking, wow, that is a huge topic. How are we going to break that one down? And how do you put that in bite-sized steps to apply to your life, both personal and business?
Mm-hmm.
So let's start by saying, how did you get first, exposed to the whole idea of commitment and accountability in your life? Was it through Kathy Allerton's training?
It's through Kathy Allerton's training, and I'm lucky because I've got two of the commitment queens in our company processing me constantly. And one is Kathy, who does it 2 times a month, and then the other one is Gina Piper, who beats me up 4 times a month.
Okay.
But it's been really good because I've seen how much it's changed my life. I mean, in the past 3 years, it's just been incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy's training I produce that she started has just made phenomenal changes in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then being around someone like Gina Piper, who's
amazing.
Yeah.
She totally walks the walk, right?
Totally. And she's one of the few people that can beat me up on commitments because I try to stay lockstep with her, but I'm not there yet.
Well, she's a great role model, I would imagine.
She is.
Yeah. A top 10 producer and also an IPC coach. So you're learning from the best.
Mm-hmm.
You decided to become an IPC coach. Why?
Mainly because Gina asked me.
Okay.
But also to give back because I felt like this company's given me a lot. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it really changed my life. Mm-hmm. And so I also want to give that back to new agents coming into the company.
Okay. Well, you came on the show, 6 months ago or so, and you strike me as a person who you have a really positive, great outlook on life. And from our conversations before the show, you said that certainly this whole newer approach, not brand new, but you've been doing it for a few years, approach to your life around commitment and accountability and really being present and being intentional in your life has dramatically changed your life. So let's talk about that. You talked about kind of what committing to your life has been. Let's start with your personal life. When you say you started really becoming more accountable and committed to your life, how did that change your personal life, your family life? You have a son, right?
I have a son.
Wife
I
and a
have
son.
a wife. And it actually affected all parts of my life. So, I mean, before I took this on, I was working all the time, working very hard. Not that I don't do that now, but now it's more focused. Mm-hmm. And so I was neglecting my wife, who was not very happy. Mm-hmm. I was neglecting my son, who was very disappointed. And I don't think the results were showing at work either. Even though I was working very hard, the results weren't there.
So when you say neglecting, so it sounds like you were just working all kind of hours. Mm-hmm. You were just working, maybe they talk about working smart, right, not hard, right? So how did that change for you? And how long did it take? Was it pretty immediate? I mean, was it
some of it takes a little longer. I mean, it was, my boy was so disappointed he didn't make the basketball team at school. And so he kind of turned to me and he said, Dad, I'm really, really disappointed. I want to make the team. I said to him, okay, if you want to make the team, then you and I need to do something about it. So we started working out together. Mm-hmm. And actually, and this was kind of a challenge that came from Gina, because, I had made this commitment to get healthy, and I had never done anything. I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing anything. And in one of our I Produce classes, she challenged me to, what's getting in the way? Why are you not doing what you're saying you're going to do?
So in other words, you said, I'm going to work out 3 times a week, and you just weren't doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. She challenged you.
And always, the excuse is I'm too busy.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So
I don't have
the most
time.
common, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so him and I started working out. In fact, at first I was like going, okay, I'll do 3 days a week. And I thought that was hard to do.
Ambitious.
Right. But we started doing it. Actually, moved it up to 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, then I had a challenge with Gina to do it 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm married, I have a kid, I work. How am I going to do this? How am I really going to fit this into my life? There's no way.
Right.
And I did.
So was this working and making a commitment to yourself to say, I'm going to work, 8 to 5, then I'm going to come home and work out with my son for an hour and then go back to work late at night? Or, like, how did you restructure your day to find that time? Because to most people on this call, they go, wow, like, you made a commitment to do 5 workouts a week with your son, and you followed through. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So where'd you find that time?
That's what I started to do. I started to be more careful with my time. I started to schedule my time. And you start to find, I started having date nights with my wife. I started working out with my son. He made the team.
He did.
He did.
Awesome.
And that was awesome. And that made me feel so good. And as this is going on, as I'm taking care of my wife and she's happy and he's happy, I'm getting healthy. Suddenly business starts pouring in. And I'm starting getting deal after deal. And it's incredible how this all works together. And so I try and do this with my students. And most people, they come to you. So you start talking to them about making commitments and scheduling their time and doing this. And they say, well, I don't have the time. And I say, no, you've got the time. I have students, they start out usually having other jobs. They're not totally committed to real estate yet. And I understand that. Right. So I have one student every week makes commitments and comes in and says, I had to work this week. I had to do other things. So I sat down with him and I said, let's look at your schedule. And so we looked at his work schedule. And I said, in there, don't you have an hour each day? He said, oh, yeah, I could give you an hour. I said, all right, an hour each day. I said, you know what, how many leads do you have right now? He says, I probably have about 20 leads with me. I said, great. I said, I'm not going to coach you today. Today we're just going to make phone calls for an hour. And let's see what happens. So he did. And guess what?
What happened?
2 appointments. And he went out and went on those appointments. So I said, all right, now look at it. If you had these 2 appointments from 1 hour a day, give me 4 more hours this week. You should have 10 appointments by the end of the week. That's not bad.
1 hour a day.
1 hour a day.
10 appointments a week.
Start small.
It's a good start.
And that's the whole idea behind the commitments. Make a commitment to push yourself. Like I said, I started at 3 days a week working out, worked up to 4 and then to 5. And you can do the same thing with your real estate business. So if you're not making phone calls right now, I don't know, start out, make 3 phone calls a day.
So that's great advice. And I think that, it's great advice because what I'm hearing you say is it's about taking bite-sized pieces. And this is the challenge with any big job or big project or big goal, right, is it's easy to say, I'm going to lose 25 pounds or I'm going to make, $150,000 this year or whatever that goal is that you want to do. I'm going to run a marathon. But the magic is in the details, right? What do they say? God is in the details. And breaking that down into a plan that is not only what you're going to do this month, but what you're going to do this week and what you're going to do every day. So it seems like that is the thing where most of us get stuck, right, is, okay, I know I want to do that I've got that big goal. What do I do right here, right now? What do I have to accomplish by the end of the day? And a lot of us are ADD. Our days get hijacked, right? I mean,
if you let it.
How do you, so I want to, let's go back to the question of, we covered, I think, how it changed your personal life, right? Your relationship with your wife improved. Your son had a great success thanks to your commitment to him. So let's talk about your business, and then we can talk about kind of what you advise for other agents. How did your enhanced commitment and focus on your business change your business? You said business started pouring in. Okay, what does that mean? Because I ran into you a while ago, and you said, I have like a bunch of listings coming in.
I know. At one point, I think I had like 26 listings, or it was crazy. And and I still continue. I'm just focused on doing every week. So I focus on every day. I focus on every week, and I want certain results out of every day and out of every week, and thus every month. I mean, a lot of it, when we're doing I Produce or I Inspire, whatever Kathy's class is, a lot of it's based on commitment. I don't want to be the guy coming in, not meeting my commitments. And it's the same with Gina. I meet with her once a week. So I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to lose face.
But it's even beyond that. It's commitments to myself. It's kind of like I tell my students. They come in and I say, this isn't so much a commitment to me or coach. It's a commitment to yourself. And it's what you're telling yourself. So as you start to meet your commitments, you're also telling your subconscious that you're worthy of these things. And it somehow lets these things in or makes you more aware of them. I don't know what it is, but it's great as it starts to happen.
There's a lot of coaching out there around visualization, right? And this is very similar. It's in that same sort of bucket of visualize it truly happening to yourself. And then, as you say, you do start to feel like it's like you're gonna let the whatever into your life and really and start to have a transformation. So, but it's really about hard work, right? You're making those calls. You're getting up, like what does your schedule look like every day, David? When you're not coaching.
I take my boy to school, which is nice, and we do affirmations in the morning, so we start out the day very positive. Actually, I start out the day earlier. I get up before anyone in the family, and I write down things that I'm grateful for in my life, which is a myriad of things. I start out with 10 things that I envision for my business, and I start out with 10 things that I envision for my personal life. And then I start my day, take my boy Alexander to school, and we say our affirmations together, which has made an incredible change in his life.
Has it?
As my life, too, yeah. And I can just see the confidence reeling out of him, and the same for me. I mean, I start the whole day very optimistically, and one of the things we always say, today is the best day of our lives. And it always turns out to be the best day of my life every day.
What a gift that you're giving to your child to have him be raised with an attitude of gratitude.
Yeah. Well, and, it goes back to this company. I'm very grateful to this company for instilling that and teaching me this. And that's why I'm so happy to teach it to other people.
Right. These are our 4 core principles, right? Vision, personal responsibility, accountability, and personal responsibility. Yeah.
And it's funny, you talk about vision. For the first time this year, really, did I write a vision for my life and started to follow it and pay attention to it every day. And so one of the things was working with foreign buyers, especially from Korea and China. My wife is from Korea. And yesterday I started showing around my first buyer from China, from Qingdao, China, and I was just laughing to myself how you start to think about these things and things happen and it gets created, and it's just, and that will be the first of many, I think. So
that's one of the goals. So accountability sounds like, the commitment is the critical part. It starts there. You've got to have the vision and the commitment, or as you say, nothing's possible. It all has to start there, right? But then the accountability. So how important is that accountability? If an agent is in an accountability group with their manager, then that's a great thing, or if they're in an accountability group with IPC. And I'm kind of jumping ahead, but what are the things that they can do to get an accountability relationship for themselves to keep them on track? What do you recommend?
There's a myriad of ways. I mean, one, I'd recommend any of Kathy Allerton's classes. I Produce, I Inspire, whatever she's doing. That's a super way. You're always welcome to come to IPC and do coaching. You can also give me a call. I'm happy to help. And a mastermind group. I would look at doing a mastermind group.
So what is a mastermind group? Not everyone may know what a mastermind group is.
So that's finding, and usually I, find people that are doing better than I am. and I want to hang out with them, and I ask them if they'll do a mastermind group with me, kind of to talk about their issues and how they do things, and kind of, you learn by following someone and studying them and seeing
Right.
their habits and what they're committed to.
Right, right. And you learn that way from Gina.
I learned that way from Gina,
like.
and there's a couple others. There's Phil Watson, who's down in Burlingame, and Rosen Gonzalez, who's over in Stockton, and they're very, very high-producing people, and I like to talk to them and get ideas from them.
So one of the things that we talked about really before the call was how accountability can transform, right? Because it takes, what, a month for something to become a habit? 6 weeks?
Yeah.
What is the rule
About
of thumb?
30 days.
30 days for something to become a habit, right? So you stick to your plan, and after that 30 days, something starts to happen, and that is that you begin to feel differently because you've kept your promise to yourself, right? And that's powerful.
It's really powerful.
And it continues to motivate and transform you. So it's a matter of getting to that point, right?
Well, and also it's kind of like you stop thinking about it. I mean, it's like
right. It becomes literally a habit.
Yeah,
you start doing it.
I don't think about working. It's not like I have to look at a calendar and go, I need to work out these days. In fact, now I'm almost at 6 days a week, and it's something I enjoy now.
Right. Right. I agree. Yeah. I've had that happen in my own personal life where you think at first you dread it and you go, how can I keep this up? How can I do this? And then before you know it, it literally does become a habit and you don't dread it anymore and you start to do it once you see results. And it does feel really good to it also gives you a sense of control over your life.
Yes.
Do you feel that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also feel you create your life. And you're responsible for your life. And I think that's one of the hardest things for people to understand.
Right.
I think the epiphany that I had during iProduce was that I can do anything. Once you suddenly realize that, I mean, people say it, but do they feel it? And once you feel it, I mean, I can sit down and I really can do anything. I have a goal. I set up commitments around that goal, and I can attain that goal. And
that's powerful.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, through coaching, a lot of students, okay, give me the door knocking or give me the cold calling. And
they want the tactics.
They want the tactics.
Right.
But I want to start with the commitments and the accountability because that's really where it's at.
So how do you teach? I mean, that's a big job, right? Internalizing. How do you teach someone or coach someone how to internalize a goal?
It's very hard to do. And
it's got to start with them. You can't motivate someone, right?
No.
You can't truly motivate someone else. I mean, you can offer them money. You could. There's certain things that motivate all of us, right? Oh, I want to look better. I want more money. But truly, someone needs to be motivated themselves before.
Yeah, and that's a little tougher to do. But sometimes they do it through, week after week of showing them, okay, maybe it's not working the way you're doing it, but let's sit down. Let's go back to point A, and let's start drawing up these commitments, and let's start to see what happens.
So
I start to see them take off.
So you help them put together a plan, basically, in your coaching. Okay, all right. So what if you must have days, David, where you just don't feel like following through on a commitment. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you had a really tough interaction with a client. You had a deal fall through. Interest rates just went up. Something. No?
It is so rare. It is really rare.
Okay, so what?
Because the commitment really pulls me through that, knowing that I have to do that for myself.
So I know you've had challenges with, of course, in your coaching where, I don't know, maybe the bridge is closed or something, and someone is supposed to get to a meeting. Oh, the bridge is closed. I can't go.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so we had that, last week, or the BART strike or whatever?
Right, BART strike, right.
So I had a couple students call me up and say, we can't get to Walnut Creek because there's a BART strike. So will you excuse me from class? So I said no. And actually, so one lady called me, and I had a great conversation with her. And I said, so let me get this straight. So if you have a $2 million escrow, and a little problem comes up, cancel the escrow?
Good. Good one. Yeah.
So
What'd she say?
she made it
She
to
made
Walnut Creek and actually wrote me a really nice email thanking me for not pushing her, but I guess being persuasive and helping her see. And she felt so great because she kept her commitment.
That's a whole other side of it, right? Is pushing through when you just don't feel like doing something, and on the other side, and you've pushed through and you've still accomplished your goal. That's powerful, right?
Oh man, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's when you feel just awesome. And that's when you get that feeling of I can do anything.
Right. And that's probably where people really start to push through some of the barriers and really stay with their commitments.
But and think about it. I mean, I also translate into real estate too. I mean, I have a lot of students who, when they start with me, are late to coaching or late to this. And I say,
Right.
well, you just
Common.
lost a $3 million listing. I mean, if you were on the other side, if you're selling your home and the agent doesn't have the respect to show up on time, is that a person you're going to list with? I wouldn't.
Right. Well, that's a perfect segue into this next question, which is, one of the reasons why people are attracted to real estate is because of the flexibility, right? But it also is one of the biggest challenges about what we do, because there's no one standing over us but us. And, no one telling us what to do. No one saying at the end of the day, have you done these 8 things? And so that is one of the things that you contend with in your coaching, I would imagine. And people probably choose in or out pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Yes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, like they say, there's no ceiling in real estate, and they always neglect to tell you there's no floor in real estate.
Right. It's an amazing opportunity, and that's
is.
why so many people are in it. And there is no ceiling, and people don't leave it because they can do so well in this.
And that's why I think, out of everything, staying focused and being committed is probably the most important thing about real estate and doing this job. And yes, you can create your own hours, but I always think we work a lot harder than the average person because we have that opportunity. I mean, going to a 9-to-5 job, I really don't have that opportunity to bust the ceiling. Whereas here, I mean, look at Gina Piper.
Right.
know?
She's a great example.
She is.
And Gina's one of those people who, probably works, I know she works extremely hard, but one thing I love about Gina is she has balance,
That's what I'm learning from her. So
She goes to India. She goes to Hawaii. She has a real great balance in her life.
And I'm starting to see why, because I'm a psychopath and I love to work. I love to work hard. I really enjoy real estate. It's not so much of a job for me, but I need to relax. And she's been kind of teaching me that, and I see the benefits of it. Whenever I take vacation, I come back really revived, but also it's that time alone and having that thought process. And I come back with new, fresh ideas. So, and that's something she does a lot of. And I'm starting to understand how she keeps her level high by doing this.
Right. Very fresh. Yeah, absolutely. That's good. So we talked a little bit about this, but, how does accountability and commitment impact your time management, right? Because, again, we go back to that concept of having, you still got the 8 hours a day. Okay, so maybe it's 10 hours a day. But if you're trying to spend, get your date night in, you're just trying to do your own workouts, work out with your son, and there is a start and finish time. So how do you cut the clutter, and how have you really reprioritized things? Like what suffers or what doesn't get done?
No. I guess, well, I mean, for me, I don't watch TV anymore.
Oh, okay.
Or relatively little, and thank God we got DVRs. So
right, yeah, you just tape it and watch it when you can.
So there's a couple things we watch, but, and I go back to my son, which his teachers comment on how focused he is and how he's able to have a long attention span. And him and we read quite a bit, or, I'll work or do things like this that, that keep your attention span, whereas the TV is constantly breaking up your attention span.
So it sounds like it's really all about quality versus quantity.
I think so.
And that's what about time management, right? You're
Well,
just...
Yeah, and fitting things in. I mean, you start with the schedule. I start with the day, and I know what's going to happen during the day, or I know what's going to happen during the week. And you start to fit things in, and there's more time than you would believe. I mean, we lose a lot of time by silly things and by not really, making your trips count. Where are you driving to? Well, if I can drive to see 3 clients in the same area on the same day instead of going 3 separate days, just using your time effectively. And that's what I do with my students is, we start to build a calendar and start to look at how we're using our time.
So do you, in terms of building that calendar and when you coach agents, I'm sure there are agents on the call that would like to know, what are some of the tips as far as time management and scheduling my day? Like, for instance, I know that I was actually just at a seminar recently, and this woman who's really focused on time management says, I do all my thinking work in the morning, and I do all my meetings and webinars and calls in the afternoon. Now, she's not a realtor, but, again, are there certain times of the day that you carve out that you say, you really need to be doing X at certain times of the day? What do you recommend?
Yeah, and I notice some top producers that they'll have a certain time period where they're only doing cold call. It depends what everyone's style is. For me, and I get these comments from other people, I make my phone calls when I'm in the car because I don't want to waste my time of being in a car. And a few people are quite surprised at me that I'm making phone calls while I'm driving. But I call my sphere of
all my phone calls.
I call my sphere of influence, and it's a great time. And
so you're a multitasker, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. All right. Good. So we already kind of covered this. What do you see in agents when they commit to these principles? It sounds like, over time. I mean, what does happen from the beginning of someone in an IPC versus at the end? And this is about a 3-month coaching program?
No, I mean, we go 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, and then after that you stay in coaching until you get your first 3 deals. So I've had people go through in a matter of 8 weeks and have their 3 deals done.
So I got a question from the audience. How long have you been selling real estate, David?
I have been selling real estate. I've been a real estate agent for about 4 years now, but I have a 30-year background in real estate. I was a real estate investor and also a developer. I've sat on our city's planning commission for 8 years. I just stepped down recently. So I come from a real estate family.
Okay. Another question that was asked by someone in the audience was they'd like to know a before and after comparison. So in other words, before David got really focused and committed to his, to his business and personal life versus after. Were you a mediocre producer versus now a top producer? How would you characterize your business before and after?
I think I was doing okay, but not great. And I think Kathy's class really snapped me into place and really made the difference. Now I'm on this upward trajectory, and I don't know. I'll be in the top 10 in the company in the next couple of years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, David. All right, good. So I think there's just one more question. And again, I'm going to have you give your phone number, David, because you did offer it earlier. How can agents set up an accountable relationship or a coaching relationship if they really feel like they want to take their business? Maybe they're a little bit stuck. They're doing some things right. They're doing activities, but they're not seeing an appreciable difference in their business, and they really want to take their business to the next level. What should they do?
I mean, this company offers a multitude of courses. Like I said, I would
always be learning, right?
Always be learning. I mean, I have 2 of Kathy's classes right now. I'm doing I Inspire and I'm doing I Produce. And I don't think you ever stop learning. So either one of those is awesome. If you want to do IPC, I would give Gina Piper a call.
And that's internal productivity coaching, IPC. Okay. And Gina's number is, well, actually you can email her. She prefers email, I believe, right?
I think she likes
Gina
email.
at ginapiper.com. Email Gina, and she's happy to tell you about the IPC coaching program.
And you can call me. You can call me at 707-328-1889. And that's 707-328-1889. And I'll also help you with IPC coaching too. Okay. And I'm happy to talk to anyone anyways if they don't want to do that. But
okay. Good. Well, thank you so much, David. I always think it's inspirational talking to you because, again, just of your outlook on life and how you have really taken the steps that you have in your business and your personal life to move it forward and to see such great results. So it's great to see. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you very
so
much. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right,
Take care.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right. Okay, next up, I want to welcome Andrea Byrne to the show. Andrea is a first-timer, but Andrea has been with us for a while. Andrea is a senior loan officer with the Land Home Financial. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Kathy. Happy Marvelous Monday, everyone. Andrea Byrne here. I've got a couple quick things to share with everyone. We've got some up-and-coming lending guideline changes in January of 2014. Really quickly, qualified mortgages and ATR, ability to repay rules, are going to take effect. They've been worked on by the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, for the last 4 years and will be implemented January 10th, 2014. So how does this affect realtors? Well, the minimum down payment, is going from 3% to 5%. Maximum debt to income is going to be tightened as well. And there's going to be some restrictions around mortgages. That affects realtors because it affects your buyers. So we definitely want to call all the jaded buyers that maybe stopped writing offers over the fall and not really thinking about doing it for the winter and unjade them. Let them know there are some...
Unjade them.
That's
like that.
Right. We got to unjade those
like
buyers.
That.
Inventory stabilizing, right? So you've got more opportunity, less competition on every single home out there. And what we know is in the here and now, right? We've got some things coming up that are going to impact lending. We have some great things to share with them right now. Some highlights that I want to share quickly. With Veterans Day just around the corner in November, I'm happy to say we closed VA loans in 30 days. That's right. We compete with conventional on that timeline. I think that's extremely important for our veterans. With the right lender, they can get in contract, and we can help them use those benefits. One of the other cool things that I want to share with everyone is we have a portfolio resource that allows people to get a purchase loan literally right after closing on a short sale or a foreclosure. Now, granted, there are some parameters that you have to fit within. One property loss, that's it. One short sale or foreclosure, no other blips on your credit. So if you want some information about that or any of the other quick highlights, please feel free to give me a call.
Andrea, do you have any information that you can give to us that we can shoot out to all the listeners about these changes that are coming up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I will send highlights over to Kathy so that they can get out to everyone and you can see the bird's eye view. For sure.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
All right, great. We're going to hear more from Andrea as we move into our third quarter market report. I want to welcome back Matt Cord. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
So Matt is our quarterly market expert here. Matt loves to talk about numbers. He is the guy that loves to, and he does a market update, and actually probably monthly updates, right, if not even weekly updates to his office, and provides some really great information. So we always love to have Matt here to give our quarterly updates. So let's just jump in and start with the national picture, and then we can get to the local.
Sure.
Okay? I love this slide, right? Americans' love affair with real estate has returned. A resounding applause.
Right. So Greg McBride is a senior financial analyst. This is about as effusive as he's ever going to be about anything. But this is really in comparison to how many people came out of the real estate downturn and figured they were never going to buy again, right? Real estate is dead. This whole appreciation thing doesn't work. I got burned. I'm not going to do it. Well, clearly over the last 18 months, that's changed.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank goodness for that. Now, this is an amazing slide, this existing home sales. This is from January 2013 through July.
Right.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is one of these things when we talk about the sort of national picture, we do have we echo a lot of what happens through the nation, right? This is not anything different than we haven't seen in our own area, right? The home sales have definitely shot up. Pent-up buyer demand drove a lot of this. I think we are getting to a point, though, where we're starting to see a leveling out, a little bit of a plateau. But, yeah, the existing home sales have just taken off.
And the plateau we're seeing is combination of
there's a couple things.
Buyer fatigue. What's
buyer
going
fatigue is
on?
probably some of it. What we have seen here over the last 8 to 10 months is prices have gone up incredibly fast. And every time price goes up, there is an affordability issue. Even though rates are really, really low, when we start to push the upper threshold, and certainly I think when we get to some of our local numbers, we'll see that in some cities we are back to the pre-bubble numbers. So our price point has gotten incredibly high very, very fast, and that's going to be, some people are going to pull back. It doesn't feel like a deal anymore.
Right. So the agents who have been squiring around buyers and who have been beaten out 5, 10, even more times for a home, what are you seeing? And I know we're jumping a little bit to the local, but let's just talk about that. What are you seeing within your office, in your market, with buyers? Is it buyer fatigue? Is it a feeling that in general the market's leveling out and they don't have to be so desperate?
Both, right? Okay. So there's you get punched in the face enough times. At some point, you decide you don't like it anymore.
I'm retreating into my corner.
Right, I'm done. What I think is incredibly important here is we were going to be testing these upper price thresholds until the buyers pull back, right? Sellers are going to try to get as much as they can for their house, as much as any environment will allow them. And as soon as we get to a point where buyers go, hey, this is too much for me, I can't do this anymore, that's when we start to hit the ceiling. The thing to know about that's a good thing, right? We want to get to some degree of homeostasis here where both buyers and sellers can get into a transaction and feel like this was a good deal. Right now, we're still seeing a lot of buyers that got into multiple offer situations, and sometimes there's a little buyer remorse that comes with that, right? And then you tell your friends, you go, oh my God, we paid too much. So I think right now what we're trying to do is get to a leveling off where it feels a little bit more equal for both buyers and sellers.
Absolutely, that makes sense. A normalized market, something we don't really see here in the Bay Area, right? It seems we are a market of extremes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So owning is still 5% cheaper than renting, right?
This
is a great one.
This was really interesting. So Trulia put this one out. And now here's the thing to understand. Most of these are supposed to be flashy, big headlines so that you go, oh, my God, I'm going to, buying a house is going to be 35% cheaper. Now, this is an aggregate of all of the major metro areas. What's to look at?
Is this a national number?
This is a national number. So this is across the board. And this holds true in our area, too. The amount it costs to rent is incredibly high. Vacancies in a lot of the big cities are incredibly low. So at this point, landlords are being able to charge an incredible amount. But where prices are at and with where interest rates are at, this holds true across the board. If you can get into a price point that feels right for you and your family, oftentimes it's going to be cheaper than what you could rent for.
Absolutely. So this is something that our agents should be using in their communication, right, with buyers.
If you were having first-time buyer conversations, this is something that I would have in my buyer presentation, right? It's just a talking point, but at least it makes people feel comfortable again that acquiring a property is the right thing to do.
And also talk to your lender in your office. If you've got an Andrea in your office, and get them to help you put a flyer together that talks about if you are spending $2,000 or $2,500 a month in rent, which is very, very par for the course here in the Bay Area, you could own right and pay a mortgage payment of that if you were buying a house based on this purchase price, right? So that's the kind of thing I agree. Get that in your buyer packet so they can really see that comparison.
And if you take 2 seconds to do a Google search on a rent versus buy, you will find 50 studies out there that will show exactly why it's beneficial.
Right. Good. Okay. All right, so return on investment, interesting.
So again, this is one of these, most of these slides, again, the way we've designed these is so that they could either be emailed out to your sphere, it can be put in a buyer presentation, but all of these are talking points, again, to either demystify the process or talk to the merits of buying a home. This is one we went back to, we've done it from 2000 to 2013. Now, that's a really, really big sample size, but the reason we did it was to make sure that we got both the high points and the low points to let you see that real estate is an incredible long-term investment. It just is. Mm-hmm. So, anybody, we've said this before, anybody looking to buy and sell inside of a year is speculating. Somebody who's looking to buy and hold, they've got an appreciating asset.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things also recently, BHG did a study of millennials. So, right, 30 and under, right, Joe? You're a millennial.
I'm 30.
30, okay, 30 and below. Anytime I have a millennial-ish question, I just go to Joe. And so the interesting thing with them is that they agreed, millennials agreed. They were asked a question, do you think that real estate and home ownership has more intrinsic value than the stock market?
Right.
And overwhelmingly, the response was yes. I want to buy a home, don't really trust the stock market. And so that was interesting based on the fact that those were folks that were, in many cases have seen their own families foreclose on their own homes, had to short sale, had great losses,
right.
But they still felt that real estate had a strong intrinsic value.
I mean, I think there's a whole lot of reasons why people buy homes, right? It's more than just the appreciating asset. It's a place for your family. It's a place to have, freedom to do what you want to do.
Right.
But one of the things that you've got to look at too is it's a tangible asset. It's something that you see, you feel, you can improve all the time. For most of us, if we're buying a stock, if we're doing it on our own, good luck. Most of us have to hire somebody else to kind of guide us through the process, and it's very, very hard to figure out whether the investments that you're making from a stock standpoint are the right ones for you. Home ownership doesn't really fall into that bucket.
Right, exactly, and especially if you follow sort of the tenets of traditional real estate, right? Location, location, location.
Right.
Buy the worst house in the best neighborhood you can. I mean, there's just certain things that you can do, and especially if you are a millennial and younger and you've got the energy, there's a lot you can do with sweat equity and transforming a home and holding it. And hanging on to it for a while. So
and certainly experiencing interest rates where they are right now. I mean, there are millennials that will buy and they may never sell that home. They may move somewhere else, but they're going to hold that and rent that, cash flow on that. So,
well, that's a whole other interesting, and we'll talk about that when we get to interest rates. But they have the millennials never seen interest rates above 6%.
It's crazy.
It's something that is foreign to them, and everyone in this room, and we're not millennials, and I bought my house at 6.5 and thought that was the best deal ever.
Right. I bought my first one in 2000. I think I got 7.5% interest rate. I thought I'd stolen it.
Right. My husband, on the other hand, bought a condo in Fresno in 1980 at 18%.
Lucky.
Yeah. So, we have more institutional memory.
Sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So back to more on the return on investment.
Oh, this one is a quick one. So again, this was to kind of answer, we did one that's kind of a 13-year sample size, and this was just to look at the last 12 months. Now, there's been just a massive rise in the stock market. I mean, there's so much money that has gone into that. But I wanted to point out, too, here is that real estate is really, it's gone toe-to-toe with an incredibly, fast, robust stock market right now. Mm-hmm. And this is even in a 12-month snapshot. I don't mind a 12% return. I'm okay with that. So I just wanted to make sure that we put it into context for what's happening right now, too.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. All right, so let's talk about home prices. Tell us about this slide.
So this was a study that came out recently, and it was basically just asking those three questions. Are prices going to go up? Are prices going to go down? Are they going to remain the same? And overwhelmingly, we've seen this. It breaks it down by kind of the general population and then by the upper middle class. More than 50% in both categories, and to a pretty extreme in the upper. Feel like this is going to continue. Prices are going to appreciate, right? We are looking at a long-term trend and certainly getting back to probably a more normalized 3% year-over-year appreciation rate, but it feels healthy again. And most people are on board with the fact that this is a sound investment for them.
And part of that is because there are such stringent lending requirements, right? We're hearing people have friends who have good credit. They aren't able to get a loan in some cases, right? But doesn't that, obviously we want to have a normalized market. We don't want to have it be too extreme where people can't get loans. But it also feels good, right? The fact that there is strong lending criteria.
Absolutely.
Right now.
I mean, we've gone from a time where everybody could get a loan to it is, and Andrea can pop in on this one too. I still think the guidelines are probably more stringent than they need to be.
Right.
But certainly those that are qualifying for loans right now have earned every bit of it.
Right, exactly. And it feels like that is where we need to be, and we won't get into the trouble we've been in the past. Okay, good. So the window of opportunity.
What a pretty slide.
That's a great slide. Nice job, Matt.
So the window of opportunity here, and this is the one thing that I'm hoping that people who have been beat up in the buying process, and certainly any agents having these conversations, rates are incredibly low. Mm-hmm. There isn't a analyst out there that doesn't think these are going to go up. So we still have a limited time here. Really, we've seen the rates jump just a bit, and I think on the next slide you'll see this. We saw the rates jump on the fact that Bernanke and his group said, hey, we're going to stop buying bonds here. We're going to stop buying a lot of these mortgage-backed securities for the foreseeable future. And then they came out, and this is that big spike that you see there. That was just on him saying it. It wasn't even in one of the actual press conferences that he put out there. He just said, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. Well, they ended up not doing it. They said, hey, no, we're going to continue the process. There's a huge feeling that in December they are going to taper how much they're going to buy, which will affect interest rates. They are going to go up. So the window of opportunity right now, we still have enough inventory that's out there. We still have incredibly low interest rates. And for those that are trying to beat what I feel is going to be 5.5 and maybe higher towards the end of next year, the time is now. Really, you've got an incredible opportunity to lock this in.
Yeah, okay. So this is the conversation we need to be having with our buyer clients. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about recent rates. Let's get Andrea in the conversation. So what's going on, Andrea, with rates right now?
Rates are actually performing very well. And, we've got a lot of economic data that is due out this week. But the most important thing is the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, meets again on Wednesday. And they're going to have that discussion on interest rates and the tapering and whether or not they're going to pull forward and when. Most traders and analysts and economists don't believe they're going to move, like Matt said, until December. Some people are of the belief that they're not going to make any movement until March, until the debt ceiling becomes an issue again, right? So right now, interest rates are, FHA and VA loans are at the high 3s. On conventional conforming, you're at low 4s. At high balance, you're at low to mid 4s. So absolutely, now is the time to take advantage of not only the way lending guidelines are right now before they tighten even further, but how cheap money is to borrow.
Absolutely, absolutely. So look at this 30-year history. What would you say about that? What would you notice about that?
Interestingly
it's
enough,
not a 30-year history. Sorry, I can't have my glasses on. It's a 1 year. That's since 2012.
I was going to say, yeah. I was going to say, there's no way because no way. The average interest rate is anywhere from 6.5% to 7% when you pull it over a 30-year stretch.
Right.
But where interest rates are right now, we are going to see. Think about inflation, right? It's cyclical, and we have suppressed inflation for a very long time, right? How much money and what value it brings to us. So there's a lot at play, but interest rates will absolutely continue to rise. They're not going to continue to buy up $85 billion of mortgage-backed securities forever.
Right. And we typically see a bit of a frenzy with buyers, right, when we see this interest rate jump a little bit. So are we expecting to see that typically?
So.
Yeah.
I would say, there's always kind of a knee-jerk reaction. The reason it's funny.
Ooh, I don't want to miss out. I better get in quick.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and here's the thing. We often cover these national numbers, and people start to tune out. They go, national doesn't matter. I am hyper-local and focused in my area. Yeah, but your clients are reading all national news. They just are. So you need to be able to address some of these things.
It does impact them.
And certainly moving from, looking at the last year and a half, we bounced around from 3.25 to 3 3/4, and boy, that was amazing. Then we made this huge jump to 4.25,
right?
Which is still incredibly cheap, right? That nothing happened, but everybody freaked out for a second. Wait, hold on, I couldn't possibly.
Yeah, that's another 150 on my mortgage.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is impactful.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. So let's look at projections. Let's get your crystal ball out, Andrea. And Matt. So this is what we've got. NAR saying 5.5, but this is high. This sounds like it's
so reasonable for fourth quarter of next year, 2014, to say that they would be in the low 5s. In fact, that's a very conservative estimate. Even right now with the economic data that's coming out, there's very conservative responses, either to better the rates or to worsen the rates. So we're just not seeing the same shift, the same swing that we typically would with the results of some reports. And I think that's a very low estimate where rates could be projected fourth quarter of 2014.
Wow. Okay. All right. And that's not small considering where we are right now. Yeah. All right. So what about the move-up seller, right? The move-up seller, there are a lot of move-up sellers that probably feel like they wish they had moved, right?
I think this is what's happened. You know, the move-up buyer, the move-up seller, it's forever been part of the real estate kind of operations here. And one of the things that we have missed is people that bought over the last 5 or 6 years got stuck. They couldn't move up. They couldn't move up certainly without taking a loss. They couldn't move up without using equity in the home to help acquire the next property. So they've been sitting there. And I think on the next slide there's a quote out there, Darren Bloomquist, who's basically saying we're seeing such an improvement in equity that people that have been stuck for the last 4, 5, 6 years are suddenly finding themselves free. And not only do they find themselves free, they may find themselves next year with a fair amount of equity in their own home,
positive
allowing
equity.
this move-up buyer to take place. You know, as a kind of shameless plug to our tools here, if it were me and I was starting a farm, I would be in Pinpoint right now picking out a zip code of you know, an area that had a fair amount of transactions in it to begin with. But I'd be looking for people that were in 2-1s, that were 1,000 square feet, that had owned their home for more than 5 years. These are the people that I think feel like, hey, I was stuck in something small. It was my entry-level home. Now's my chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea. Yep, great opportunity. Yep. And so, yeah, the trade-up.
She's just saying the same thing.
Yeah, she's saying this is the same thing. More and better. Great opportunity to get that bigger house that you may not have been able to get into before because you've got the positive equity.
And again, you're able to use the house that you're in now as leverage to get to the next one. And we couldn't do that. We couldn't do that over the last 5 or 6 years.
Right,
So.
absolutely. And people that have bought, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, may even be thinking about buying
Absolutely.
it. Right.
Absolutely.
Yep. So. All right, so inventory, this is national again, right?
So we're not quite where the nation is, right? The nation is really, actually, it has come to a very, very nice kind of homeostasis, right? There's a nice equilibrium between buyers and sellers nationally. We're not quite there
we're
yet,
not.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're still seeing competitive situations, not as competitive as we saw before, but we are seeing just a slow uptick in inventory. It hasn't been aggressive. We haven't seen this flood of sellers coming out. But there are sellers that are testing the market now. We're going to keep seeing that.
Right, absolutely. So in terms of inventory online, I mean, definitely we're here, and we're going to get to the local slide here. But nationally, again, inventory is down all over still.
And here's the thing. I mean, look at all the national information that we've got out there as a means of a conversation with your clients, right? Even if it's not pertinent to us, have the answer as to why, right? If everybody else says, hey, this is a really great buyer-seller market, I don't have to go over, I have to go out asking, it is your job as the agent to know your area, to go, nuh-uh, in this area you do have to go over. Actually, no, in these surrounding areas, we've seen things go pretty close to list.
Absolutely.
So just have an answer.
Right, absolutely. Okay. So what is happening with distressed sales right now?
I think everybody's seen it, right? I mean, we've gone 2 years ago in our local market where we were 45-50% of the market was short sale and REO, and we've gone from a national standpoint all the way down to 12, and in most of our local areas, we're below 5.
Yeah.
And that's REO and short sale combined. It's just, as people start to, get out of the hole that they were in from a short sale standpoint, those people are willing to wait if they can. And REO has, banks, there's still shadow inventory that gets talked about. Most of that is in judicial states. We're seeing that more in the Northeast than we are around here. So California, kind of the sand states, California, Nevada, Arizona, Florida, we got through a bunch of ours really, really early. And I think we all experienced that, but we're not having the same kind of, whiplash that some of the other states are.
Right. So with the distressed properties drying up, what are you seeing in terms of investor interest and all cash offers? Is that dissipating?
As all cash is still out there. I'm amazed how much cash is still out there. We are seeing some investor pullback on at least the large institutional investors who are buying up huge amounts of property that they could actually buy and hold and get a fairly good return on the rentals. We were seeing a lot of onesie-twosie investors that were rehabbing homes, but that becomes more difficult as properties get bid up because those investors make their money on the buy. And if 8 people want it, they can't buy it and make the return that they want. So we're starting to see a little bit of investor pullback, giving opportunity for those that are buying for themselves.
Right. They're not getting the rock bottom deals they were getting for a while. So long. It was pretty sweet for the investors for a long time. All right, so let's talk about prices. Again, this is a national look.
I like this one because I think it's echoing what we were saying before, where you see from June of
powerful.
last year all the way here through March, there's this steady increase in prices, and all of a sudden you see the plateau.
Yeah.
Right now, the plateau is high. It's it's floating at 12% there. But what we're seeing is there is a threshold at which buyers are willing to go up to. Sellers are going to test the market as far as they can. It's the buyers that decide whether that's value anymore. And what we're seeing is, hey, we've hit it, right? We've hit in a lot of areas. We're kind of touching our ceiling. Now there's going to be the anomaly, the place that goes, 30% over what it should, and that's going to happen. But by and large, if you're looking at this, we are starting to hit this price point.
Absolutely. That's a great slide. All right, so here is a look at the Bay Area for Q3. And by the way, the market reports are coming out this week, everyone, so keep a lookout in your email. So here are 5 counties where we concentrate a lot of our market area here in the Bay Area. So taking a look at sales, days on market, and price year over year.
Right. I mean, this is, for all of you guys that are out there, and in this, I don't think this is any surprise, looking at sales being down slightly doesn't concern me as much as you look at prices going up, and there's a correlation there. Right. What we're also seeing, too, is those properties that are on the market are not staying on the market as long as they used to. Again, I think we're starting to see that slow a little bit. I mean, we had gotten to some points, I think Alameda County at some point, we had gotten to less than 18 days for houses on the market. That's going to push back. It's going to push up a little bit. But by and large, what we're still seeing here is because of inventory staying low, because the desirability of the Bay Area, prices have been pushed up fairly high. We will start to see that come down a little. And that's, again, it's not a bad thing. We're really trying to get to a really even, balanced market. It's healthy for everyone.
And part of that will be seasonality.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bay Area wide, sales down 5%, days on market down 18%, and prices up almost 30%.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So here's inventory. Boy, this number is much healthier than it was last year, right?
Right.
When we were down 30%, 40% of inventory.
It's interesting here to look at the active units, right? In September of 2012, it's 8,500. Now you're looking at September 2013, there's 7,000. What's going on? Is inventory getting lighter?
Right.
Well, I mean, what we saw there at the end of 2012 is that we were trying to get some of these properties on the market here. We had already had a 6-month run-up at that point, and we saw more people starting to test. What we're finding now is that the buyer demand is still real, even though the price point threshold is going down. And that's one of the things that we've got to pay attention to is even with a price plateau, it doesn't mean buyers are less interested. Sales are still taking place, right? Inventory is still getting churned. So understand that even if there's a pullback a little bit in prices, it's not depressing the interest of the buyers to get in the market.
Right. Absolutely. All right, well, I think this is our summary slide here, right?
This is Stan Humphries. He's Zillow. Stan, if you read his stuff, he's very palatable as far as economists go. There's some that you read 2 paragraphs and you've fallen asleep already, but Stan is pretty good. But he's basically saying exactly what we're saying here, that the rate at which prices were increasing, it was not sustainable. This is something that we had to pay attention to. And as a matter of fact, seeing this plateau take place is good for everybody. This is absolutely something that we're all looking to see.
Well, it's certainly good to be discussing a much healthier market this year, isn't it?
Right.
Well, Matt, thank you so much as always.
My pleasure.
Love your numbers, your stats, your perspective on the market is really very much appreciated. And I know we got a really good turnout on today's call. So thanks so much. And Andrea, thank you so much as well for coming in and talking about the interest rate piece of it. Was really enjoyed having you here. All right, great. Well, thanks everyone. Great show, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.